Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Well, we've trekked through the humid jungles of Laos in Operation Shadow earlier today, but now the air turns bitter and the stakes turn ideological. Long before the modern headlines, the agency was engaged in a deep cover marathon to dismantle the Soviet Union from within its most vital breadbasket. This wasn't a war fought with tanks, but with printing presses, radio waves, and men falling from the night sky into the heart of occupied territory. This was Operation AERODYNAMIC. When the Iron Curtain fell, the agency didn't just watch, they started throwing books over it. Operation AERODYNAMIC was one of the longest-running covert operations, beginning in 1948 and continuing in various forms until the very collapse of the Soviet Union in 1990. A quote from a declassified 1953 CIA project outline: "The objective is to provide for the exploitation of the anti-Soviet Ukrainian underground for the purpose of psychological warfare and the collection of intelligence," end quote. The agency worked closely with the Supreme Ukrainian Liberation Council, establishing a front organization in New York known as PROLOG Research and Publishing, Inc. The declassified archives reveal that the agency used the Langley paper trail to fund the distribution of over 30,000 nationalist newspapers and periodicals monthly into the Ukrainian SSR. A quote from the memoirs of a PROLOG operative: "We weren't just sending words, we were sending a sense of identity. Every pamphlet that made it past the border was a crack in the Kremlin's foundation," end quote. Technological breakthroughs included the development of microdot printing, allowing entire books to be shrunk to the size of a postage stamp for easier smuggling across the Polish border. The declassified release confirms the agency utilized Langley stealth containers, briefcases with lead-lined false bottoms that could bypass early Soviet X-ray scanners at train checkpoints. During the early 1950s, the agency facilitated parachute drops of Ukrainian agents into the Carpathian Mountains, equipped with Langley-made shortwave transmitters. A quote from CIA Deputy Director Frank Wisner: "The Ukrainian resistance represents our best hope for an internal rupture of the Soviet monolith," end quote. The declassified archives show that the agency established a secret training camp in the Bavarian Alps where Ukrainian exiles were taught invisible chemistry and rural survival. Operation AERODYNAMIC agents successfully infiltrated the World Youth Festival in Vienna to distribute banned literature to Soviet delegates. The declassified logs reveal that Project QK Dynamic was a sub-branch that used Langley-developed balloons to drift propaganda leaflets over the border during favorable wind conditions. Agency technicians created high-speed burst transmitters for the Ukrainian underground, which could send a 30-second message in a 1-second pulse to avoid Soviet radio triangulation. A quote from a 1970 internal CIA evaluation: "While the armed resistance has been suppressed, the ideological influence of the PROLOG group remains the most significant threat to Soviet stability in the region," end quote. The declassified release highlights the Langley Library Initiative, which secretly mailed Western literature to Soviet intellectuals using a complex network of dead letter addresses in neutral countries like Switzerland. Operational breakthroughs included the water-soluble notebook, allowing agents to swallow or dissolve their contact list, instantly if caught by the KGB. The declassified records confirm that the agency funded a secret radio station in Munich that broadcasted coded instructions masked as folk music to sleepers inside the Ukraine. By the 1980s, AERODYNAMIC had transitioned into Operation PD Dynamic, focusing on the smuggling of video cassettes and early computer discs. The declassified archives show the CIA developed synthetic passports using Langley engineered paper that mimicked the exact aging process of Soviet documents. The failure of the Soviet coup in 1991 was partially attributed to the decades of nationalist priming carried out by the AERODYNAMIC network. Historical records from the declassification show the CIA utilized a Langley Front travel agency in West Berlin to vet and recruit Ukrainian defectors. The declassified archives confirm that the CIA developed anti-tamper seals for drop containers that would release a foul-smelling gas if opened by anyone other than the intended recipient. A quote from a declassified 1965 project summary. The penetration of the Ukrainian academic circle has reached a level where we can influence the curriculum in 3 major universities. End quote. Agency technicians developed a silent printing press that could be operated in a basement without the rhythmic thumping that usually gave away illegal publishers. The declassified release highlights Project Night Owl, a sub-operation where the agency used ultra-low light cameras to film Soviet troop movements along the Dnieper River, Dnieper. The declassified logs show the agency spent over $30 million annually during the height of the Cold War on PROLOG operations. The CIA successfully created Project Ghostwriter, a program that used Langley-designed algorithms to mimic the writing style of famous Ukrainian dissidents to protect their true identities. The declassified archives reveal that Operation AERODYNAMIC was the first to use subliminal audio encoded into Western jazz records smuggled into the East. The agency developed a thermal image map of the entire Ukrainian railway system to identify the best locations for dead drops. Newly unearthed declassified files describe Project Snowblind, where the agency distributed thousands of high-quality winter coats to dissidents that had tiny flexible antennas sewn into the seams to act as massive passive signal relay network. Declassified intelligence confirms that the agency's Langley Logistics branch produced over 5 million packs of cigarettes with nationalist slogans printed on the inside of the foil, ensuring the message was literally in the hands of the Soviet working class. A quote from an internal 1982 CIA strategy session. "We are no longer just supporting a resistance, we are curating a culture. The Soviet state cannot compete with the allure of a history the agency has helped them rediscover." End quote. Operation AERODYNAMIC successfully established a black market university where prohibited Western textbooks on economics and cybernetics were translated and distributed via microfilm hidden inside hollowed-out loaves of bread. The declassified release details the Dnieper drift, Dnieper again, a technique where waterproof floating canisters of literature were released into the river from Turkey and timed to wash up at specific fishing villages in the Ukraine. But while the printing presses are public, the declassified files have a section labeled Project Omega K, which remains completely redacted. What was the agency bearing under the ice? Get ready for the theory of the frozen army. Speculation suggests the agency didn't just support dissidents, they used a cryogenic chamber to hide elite strike teams under the Ukrainian snow for decades. The rumor is that these soldiers were on ice, waiting for a specific radio frequency to wake them up for a final assault on the Kremlin. The redactions hide the thaw protocol logs and the coordinates of the deep freeze bunkers. What if the resistance was actually engineered? A dark rumor suggests the agency used neural implants to program Ukrainian exiles to become sleepers. According to the theory, the redactions hide the brainwave frequency logs, evidence that thousands of refugees were actually biohacked puppets designed to act in unison when the agency transmitted the aerodynamic signal. Did the agency use weather warfare? Gossip suggests the redactions hide Project Blizzard in an attempt to create a permanent winter over Moscow, using Langley-made atmospheric seeds with the black ink masking the tectonic chill data. The steep satellite theory posits that the redactions hide a crashed Soviet spacecraft that the agency recovered in the Ukraine, with the black bars masking the alien material recovery logs. Was the underground press actually a mind control experiment? Whispers from the leak claim the redactions hide Project Ink, where the newspapers were treated with chemicals that made readers more suggestible to Western propaganda, and the black ink hides the chemical compound formula. The Siberian substitute rumor suggests the agency replaced the top 3 leaders of the Ukraine Communist Party with plastic surgery altered doubles, with the black bars masking the surgical transformation records. Did they build a subterranean rail? Some believe the redactions describe Operation Tunnel, a secret high-speed train line connecting Langley directly to Kyiv through a rift in the Earth's crust, and the black ink covers the maglev blueprints. The radio rapture theory claims the redactions prove the agency used voice of God technology to make the Soviet soldiers hear the voices of their dead ancestors telling them to defect, and the black bars hide the frequency modulation logs. Is the snow watching? Gossip suggests the redactions hide Project Crystal, where the agency turned the Ukrainian snow into a massive fiber optic sensor, and the black ink mask the audio-visual steep transcripts. Some whisper that the redactions hide the fact that the Soviet Union never actually fell, but was merely virtual reality created by the agency to end the Cold War, and the black ink covers the simulation shutdown codes. Deep cover whispers suggest that the redactions mask Project Petrify, a program that used bioengineered fungi to eat the rubber seals on Soviet nuclear silos, with the black ink hiding the spore dispersal flight paths. The poltergeist protocol rumor claims the agency used holographic projections to haunt the barracks of Soviet guards, making them believe the ghost of the Holodomor were rising for revenge, and the black bars hide the spectral generator blueprints. Was a famous Ukrainian mystic on the payroll? Legend says the redactions hide Project Oracle, where the CIA utilized a clairvoyant to predict the exact date of the Soviet collapse, with the black ink masking the psychic intelligence transcripts. The hum of the hinterland theory suggests the agency built massive infrasonic arrays in the Carpathian Mountains that induced feelings of dread in KGB patrols, and the black bars hide the acoustic frequency biological impact studies. And lastly, some believe the files hide Project Mercury, a plan to use mercury-based superconductors to create a blackout zone over Kyiv, effectively making the city invisible to Soviet satellites, with the black ink covering the electromagnetic veil specks. Was Operation AERODYNAMIC a success? Tactically, it was a slow burn victory. While many early parachute missions ended in tragedy and capture, the long-term PROLOG ideological campaign was brilliantly executed. Strategically, it was a definitive win. By keeping the dream of Ukrainian independence alive for 40 years, the agency ensured that the moment the Soviet center weakened, the edges would crumble. The agency proved that an idea is more dangerous than a bullet. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs breakthroughs go, the steep signal rewrote the rules of soft power warfare. For instance, ideological front organizations, perfecting the use of publishing houses to funnel millions of dollars into hostile territory. Micro-scale smuggling, the development of microdots and advanced concealment tech that redefined border crossing. Long-range influence operation, establishing the blueprint for how a foreign power can sustain a domestic resistance movement for decades. And psychological priming, proving that cultural and literary subversion can be more effective than military intervention. Operation AERODYNAMIC shows us that the longest wars are fought in the mind. As the declassified files reveal, the steep signal never really stopped. It just changed its frequency. Thanks for listening, and join us next time as we examine Operation Lusty. The agency raced into the ruins of Nazi Germany to capture technical secrets before the Iron Curtain closed. We'll uncover the technical intelligence teams. We'll look at the captured jet engines and radio research documents, and the moment the agency realized that the future was written in German ink. Join us next time for the technical trophies. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.